You're tuned into All2ReelToo. Be sure to subscribe, download, share the show with a friend, and stop by all2reeltoo.com for our social links, Patreon, and TeePublic store info.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Fergal.
And we're from Movie Smash.
Comic book movies are having a golden age right now with the MCU.
Movies based on comics aren't necessarily a new thing, but they're a big thing.
Join us every other Tuesday on Movie Smash.
We explore these movies and find some hidden gems.
Every other week, we revisit some of the best.
And some of the worst movies based on comics or graphic novels.
Was Green Lantern as bad as you remember?
Heck no!
Is Time Cop the most accurate time travel movie ever created?
Absolutely.
Was Mystery Men way ahead of its time?
Should they be revisited? Should they be forgotten?
Join us on Movie Smash and find out. Listen wherever you find your fine podcasts.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is
Sesame. I've been trying to use my words carefully. Encarta.
You should always use your words carefully.
It's true.
I mean, if we've learned anything in this world.
Especially nowadays, it's very important for anyone to do that. A lot of people choose not to do it, but it's probably a good thing to do, I would say.
I would too.
What do I know? Well, I'm not like a authority figure here on that issue, so.
No, you're not. You're just a regular dude,
mm-hmm.
Who may or may not hate Napster. And
right. Yeah, I hate Napster, sure. Yeah, whatever. I got like all of my music, like 1999 to 2000.
Yes. Where it comes from, man.
I was lucky that I wasn't one of the screen names that got read off and like basically have like the FBI knock down my door, like, you're downloading.
I know there were like teenagers and like old ladies that got like huge fines and went to jail and stuff. It was sad.
Actually fucking weird, yeah.
Yeah. And now whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I hope they got like some kind of like restitution for that. Like, but
no, you only get restitution if you storm the Capitol on January 6th.
True. That's right. Yeah, those you gotta choose your crimes wisely. Downloading music was the wrong crime to commit.
I know some people who were at January 6th reporting on it.
Yeah.
Can they claim some of that money? I'm just curious.
No, because they were just reporting on it and not committing violence. So.
Oh, okay.
You gotta get violence against democracy and the established government in order to overturn in a democratic election. You can install some type of autocracy, whether it be fascism or some other just generic authoritarianism. Not really sure yet which, but something along those lines. Only then do you get money for doing it.
Which we all know is bad, and I learned that from watching the 2026 Angel Studios film Animal Farm. And wait, no,
yes, yes.
Don't see that, folks, but do go to New Realms Media YouTube channel and listen to me and Ryan Moore over there review the movie that made me want to just hate cinema forever. Anyway, so but today we're going to be reviewing a documentary that kind of deals with the whole idea of authoritarianism and and how it can be corrupted. or maybe not. It's a movie from 22 years ago.
Yeah.
From 2004 called Metallica, Some Kind of Monster.
Yeah.
Yes, it was directed by Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky. Let's see what they've done. They're known for the Paradise Lost movies. If you haven't seen those, I highly recommend them. They're really good documentaries about the West Memphis 3, the like younger adults and teenagers who were wrongfully accused of killing 3 children.
Oh wow!
Just because they were like goth.
Oh wow!
Yeah, yeah. There's like several of the documentaries. They would go back and revisit them as they were, they were wrongfully convicted and spent years in jail until they were acquitted. So yeah. So yeah, those are good ones. Also, they produced a Ghislaine Maxwell documentary, a Hitler and the Nazis documentary, stuff like that. So the Tylenol murders documentary, a lot of good documentaries. So yeah, check them out. Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky. They I don't know if they both are involved in both those movies, but that's some of their stuff. They are both definitely involved in the Paradise Lost films. Yeah. Which again, I highly, highly recommend. And the movie, according to IMDb, the logline reads, the iconic metal band struggles for 2 years to create their album Saint Anger, dealing with alcoholism, the loss of their bass player, and the challenge of working with a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the movie, of course, stars Metallica.
Well, yeah. It's actually a cover band of Metallica. Metallica wasn't actually in the movie.
Yeah, no, they were. For better or worse, they were in the movie.
Some form version of Metallica was in.
Yes. We have James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, Lars Ulrich, and then later Robert Trujillo. Is that how you say that?
I think so.
Yeah.
And Jason Newsted was in a few scenes.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, and then there's like archive footage of Cliff Burton, and you've got Bob Rock, their producer, who played bass on most of the album of Saint Anger.
Yeah,
and that was the last time he ever worked with them.
Oh, I can't imagine why. That guy, very interesting.
Yeah, almost universally fans after that album and stuff basically forced Metallica to get rid of him.
It's a terrible. I can talk about this all day, but I don't want to get too up on the album.
Yeah,
that's horrifying in so many ways. But
yeah,
the fact that it took that long to produce what then was produced. I don't get it. Anyway,
so anyways, maybe we'll get into this here. Your initial reactions to this film.
This film, okay, so they say like never meet your heroes type thing. Well,
yeah,
never watch your heroes go through a collective breakdown for all eyes to see. You got to understand. Okay, I'm going to go off the tangent here. Don't worry. It's related. That's not like my normal tangents that go off.
You never go off on tangents. I don't know. I'm joking.
This one is a related tangent. So I grew up on Metallica. Metallica was like my world for a really long time. Like I started listening to Metallica when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And so my uncle introduced Metallica to my aunt, and then my aunt introduced Metallica to my brother. And then I heard Metallica playing all the time because my brother, that was all he would listen to for a long time. And so I grew up on, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, etc. This is before the Black Album even came out. I was listening to Metallica pre-Black Album at like 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
So it was, they were like huge for me. Like they were my band. Even as I started listening to music on my own, they became like my band. Like Megadeth, they were really cool too, but Metallica was like my project, my band. You want to talk about the documentaries? So the documentary I grew up on, Metallica, was called Metallica, or it was called A Year and a Half of the life of Metallica, and it was all about them making the Black Album. So that's interesting because we got Bob Rock working on them on one album, the first album that he worked on with them.
Yeah,
worked with them on. Sorry, rather, and then a lot of it's based on that, and also touring, life on the road. They get into some history of the band, etc. So I grew up on that documentary. That's when Metallica was on top. That was when they were like ruling, conquering the world. I mean, it is called A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica. They ended up actually touring for about 3 years straight, not a year and a half, going all over the world. They played in Russia right after the fall of the Soviet Union. I think they were one of the first heavy rock bands that played to like a crowd of like hundreds of thousands of people. And it actually was pretty bad because the guards started beating up a lot of the people because they weren't used to that kind of chaos. That the Soviet Union was like upset at like border and stuff like that. So the guards were probably all former Soviet Union guards, and they thought they were like putting down a riot essentially, even though it was just like a heavy metal concert. That wasn't too good. But they played with AC/DC,
Black Crowes, Pantera, and EST in Russia.
Yeah, that was a huge concert. That was what they played. Yeah, it was a huge. And so
I wonder if that was the concert, because I know maybe that was one before that, but there was like this big concert that basically was kind of like a goodwill thing between the United States and Russia.
Yeah. And so, excuse me. So I grew up on that documentary as well because my brother had that one. Yeah, I watched it all the time with them. Part of it was because at one scene, at this woman flashes her boobs, and so we had to make sure we paused it, freeze framed that. This is before the internet, guys. So and so that's like when they were on top of the world. Basically, they were full of energy. They were young. They were probably in their late 20s at the time. They had just. You want to talk about 2 years working on Saint Anger, right?
Yeah.
So context wise, and I get it. When you're younger, you tend to be more creative. Creativity just oozes out of you. I get it. But they made 4 albums in a 5-year time span from 1983 to 1988. And so Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets, all within a 3-year time span from 83 to 86. And those are all classic albums. And Justice for All has its issues with the mixing. I could get into that, but I don't want to bog down on like tech stuff or whatever. Basically, they caught Jason Newsted by turning down all the bass and had the guitar and drums turned up all the way because James and Lars were even then having a big fucking fight over wanting to be in control. And so they wanted their instruments to be the loudest. And so that's why the album sounds like shit, even though the songs are actually really good. The production sounds absolutely horrible.
Which album?
Injustice for All.
Oh, okay.
So much so that fans online have had to take it upon themselves because they won't do it on themselves. I don't know why they can't just re-release the album with the bass turned up. And so fans themselves on YouTube had to take it upon themselves to make their own version where either they record their own bass riffs, but they got the bass turned up way too loud in that one. Finally, I found one where they were able to extract the stems using AI and just turn up the bass a little bit. And it sounds so much better just with the bass. Just because like bass is not supposed to like completely stand out. Like you're not supposed to overhear bass, but it's got to be present in the music, like especially for like metal music.
There could be reasons why they can't release it either, too, because they could have maybe lost the original recordings of the bass or something, or they might only have the masters and not the individual recordings of each instrument anymore too.
Yeah, and so it's like a shock, so I grew up on this documentary, which this is like amazing. That's when they really blew up. I mean people, I don't know people like who've been in Metallica as much as I am. People got to understand Metallica was already a huge band before the Black Album even came out. The Black Album was all that did was just push them into the mainstream, but they already were huge. By if you go online, you can find it on YouTube. There's a concert from 1989 in Seattle. It's known as probably one of the best concerts Metallica has ever performed in the entire career. It's absolutely fucking amazing. And plus, too, it's all from the first 4 albums. And so it's just like completely speed metal, just beats the shit out of you. There's like hardly any let up whatsoever. And so Bob Rock comes in the picture, of course. Bobby here, he works on them. This motherfucker tells them, I don't know where you got this idea. He goes, you haven't ever captured on any of your albums what the energy of your live concerts are. Have you not listened to the album Master of Puppets? We got beat per minutes going like 180 on some of these songs, extremely fast. What are you talking about? And so he's like, yeah, let's work on the Black Album, whatever. So they work on a Black Album. It's a good album. Not their best in my opinion, but it's good. It pushes them in the mainstream, and they become probably one of the biggest band, probably even bigger than Led Zeppelin, to be honest, when it comes to their influence and just their notoriety, whatever. And so then this documentary comes out 12 years, because that came out in 92. Some Kind of Monster documentary comes out in 2004. So a mere 12 years between that and this documentary, and like seeing them on their all-time high and then seeing them on their all-time low, and it's just like, man, like it's just traumatizing to watch this documentary of how like the dumb fights they would get into, particularly from James and Lars.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Bob Rock too is like before he was with them, he had worked with like the Cult and Motley Crue, which are totally different types of music than Metallica. Not to downplay either one of those bands, but not that matters either, because he then went on to do he won a Grammy Award for his work with Michael Bublé.
I mean, he's a good producer. He is a good producer, but I don't know what he was thinking on say, I don't know. I think that watching this whole documentary, I didn't know that apparently there's like a psychological phenomenon where you could just like forget a skill that you have. Like you just don't remember how to do it for whatever reason. It's not because like it's gone in your memory. It's just like something goes on where you just can't do something that you normally can do. And so watching them play like that, I was like, had they forgotten that they've already written and recorded 7 albums before this right now? Like, what's going on here? And it literally sounds like that, because like Bob Rock, again, kind of fucked them over, because like a Black Album, it's more mainstream and it's still metal, but it's not like super hardcore thrash metal, but it still has that strength and power behind it. Then 5 years later, they record Load, which is just a regular rock album. It's not even heavy. James is singing in a completely different style than he did before. It doesn't even really sound like him. He changed his singing style. I mean, I get it. Like he was taking voice lessons and stuff because he couldn't like scream all the time. But like he just sounded like a completely different person. So I don't really know. And then this is their era where they got into this mentality where they think longer automatically equals better. Like the selling point of Load, the sticker on the CD literally says 78 minutes of music. Like that was the selling point of how long the album is. I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be long. I'm like, having an album being super long does automatically mean
quantity versus quality sort of thing,
And so ever since then, all their albums have been in the 70-minute range, no matter what. Ride the Lightning, their second album, 48 minutes long. One of the best albums they've ever created, in my opinion. You don't need it to be 78 minutes long. And then each album goes down. So Reload, 76 minutes. Saint Anger, 75 minutes. Death Magnetic, 74 minutes. Hardwired for Self-Destruct, whatever it's called, 77 minutes. 72 seasons, it's like 75 minutes. Like, you don't need your album anyway. I'm getting too hung up on that, but like, it's like you don't need your albums to be like that long. Like, it's like you don't like if like to express or whatever. Like,
to get to my feelings on the thing is, it's like I was never a big Metallica fan. I kind of liked them when I was young, like before the Black Album, and then my musical taste kind of changed. And I mean, to be honest, like I went into a rap phase. And so I kind of just didn't like rock music for a while. And then like the Black Album came out and I was like, okay, that's all right. And then I kind of just fell off and didn't really care about them at all. Like, I didn't even listened. I mean, I've listened to part of Saint Anger and Load and Reload and stuff, but I haven't even really listened to much of anything since then. And
the albums you want to listen to if you want
no.
to.
Yeah, like, I listened to the early ones when I used to hang out with a older friend of mine. You know, one of those older friends that introduces you to music. He was a big rock guy. He was mainly into like the glam rock before the before like thrash metal and stuff. But he was like into Motley Crue and Poison and shit like that. But
stuff is okay.
Yeah. Nothing against any of these bands. Period. Even Metallica. But yeah, my whole view of Metallica is I listened to an interview with James Hetfield on Mark Maron's podcast, and he impressed me then because I mean this was just a few years ago, and he was a lot different than he used to be.
Yeah,
but I will say this now, and I'll say it always. I've always hated Lars. I will always hate Lars. He's the most pretentious person in music. He thinks he's the best thing that's ever happened to drums, and he's not. He's
but, well, he was really good in the early years, for sure. But then he fell off.
I just think he's the most pretentious person, especially he's the most pretentious person in rock music, not just Metallica.
Yeah, he very much is. He was always really good at like promoting and marketing, and even the early years, like Lars is always usually on the business angle of things. Without Lars, there really would be no Metallica, frankly. But like
the band, I mean, I'll give him the credit, and I'm not saying that he's a bad drummer or anything. I just think his personality has always rubbed me the wrong way.
I think he gets it from his father because his father, he's mentioned there, he's shown the interview in the movie.
Yeah,
he was a tennis pro in Denmark. He actually groomed Lars to be following his shoes to be tennis.
Yeah.
Pro himself, and he actually won some competitions when he was younger, but then he wanted to get into music. That was his real passion. And then but it's just like, especially as he gets older, it's just like those interviews, just like he's always chewing gum in this documentary too, which really pisses me off. Like I can't stand how often he's chewing gum.
People that chew gum all the time bother me too. I don't know what it is. It's like
it's like a defense mechanism, or like,
it's like a cockiness almost too.
It just bothered me.
Yeah, and I will say that to go into the documentary too a little bit. He did have a really cool Basquiat painting, but then he sold it. But yeah,
he's been collecting art since the Black Girl days. He has a pretty good eye for art. Yeah. Speaking of art, though, like you want to talk about,
it just kind of sucks. I was trying to figure out what happened to that Basquiat painting, and it because Basquiat is one of my favorite painters, and I think it's in a private collection now where nobody can ever see it. I mean, it was in a private collection with Lars as well, but something like that should be in a museum.
Yeah, it should not just be some dude. But like speaking of pretentious, there's when he's talking about his art before he sells it. This is a different scene. He goes into this thing where he's like, I've always liked art and or whatever, and it kind of, it's like my relationship with art. Like I used to think that like art was like separate from my relationship with music, but then now it's like, there is no separation. Like this painting right up here, it's like you see like that blank spot up on the top, and it's like when does the painting begin? When does it end? What makes a song? When does a song end? Like, what does that even mean? I'm like, a song ends when it ends. Like,
yeah, that painting, that painting that's the Basquiat I was talking about.
That painting, no, it's really good, but like him talking about it so dumb, like stupidly. Yeah. Like, I bet you, like, he probably hated Lars talking if he was alive. I don't know if he was.
No, Basquiat died pretty young. So
okay, but like, and like, I don't know. It's just like, but like again, like I do like how like James, he's always been like, I don't like sometimes James, I think James is very conservative. Like he's very careful. Like he never goes into politics. That's probably one of the smartest things he's ever done. Actually, he never publicly takes a stand on anything. But like I know he's really big into hunting and stuff like that.
He doesn't. But when he talks about not talking about politics, it comes off very conservative.
Yeah, so I think he's just careful and not alienate anyone, which it's pretty smart, I think. And so he he grew up. A lot of these guys grew up in except for Lars, kind of grew up in very privileged upbringings might explain his pretentiousness and stuff like that. Because James grew up in a Christian Science religion. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. He grew up in Christian Science, very obscure Christian.
Yeah, they don't believe in going to doctors usually, unless it's like absolute necessary.
Even then, I don't think so, because so his mother died of cancer because they refused to seek medical treatment.
Yeah.
And so she didn't, and they used to take him out of health class when he was a kid because he wasn't allowed to learn about biology and the body and things like that. And so, he kind of grew up very sheltered in that way and kind of felt very, exposed and stuff like that, being taken out of health class, and everyone's wondering, like, why is he not, taking class with us, stuff like that. And so he grew up in that kind of religion. His parents split up when he was 12. Maybe it was for that reason. Maybe one of them didn't believe it as much. I don't know. And then she died when he was 16. So then that's when he started getting into music. He was also played football, but music became kind of like his haven or whatever. Kirk Hammett also grew up extremely poor, to the point where he said when he got his first guitar, he actually didn't even get a guitar case. He put it in a garbage bag because he was afraid that someone would steal it if they saw him walking by with his guitar.
Yeah.
So that's like extreme, poverty and very rough, upbringing and, different mental things, with James and whatnot. Dave Mustaine as well, he makes an appearance. For those who don't know, I'm sorry, I'm nerding out here. Dave Mustaine was technically the second lead guitarist of Metallica. There was actually a guy who recorded one of the demos before him, but I don't think he ever played live with them. And so Dave Mustaine was the first kind of like official lead guitarist for Metallica. And I think he recorded on their first demo. And then I think he recorded a little bit on some of the demos that later were re-recorded to be Kill 'Em All, which is their first album. And so and he grew up again very, not great. His father was a abusive alcoholic. His mom literally moved him all over California, and somehow he would find out. This is before internet. I don't know how you find out shit like that back then, unless you're like really trying hard to find out where someone lives, especially if they're moving around all the time.
Yeah.
And he'd find them somehow, and then she'd move them out again. Eventually, she also got into alcohol, so she couldn't really take care of them and kind of just let them defend for himself, essentially. So then he moved in with his older sister, and then she got married to a super religious dude who would beat him because he listened to rock music and like having like Iron Maiden and like Def Leppard, I think, and stuff like that. And so then he went off on his own at 16 to live in an apartment by himself.
Yeah.
Drugs to make money. And I mean, I know like everyone's like, oh, you're such a lucky guy or whatever. But like, he was basically being like groomed by a woman who worked at the record store who buy drugs for him. And then she had sex with them. And of course, it's like, yeah, awesome. But it's like, it's no, because if it was the other guy way around, the guy with the record store, he's buying drugs for the girl.
It's still pedophilia either way.
And so, but he kind of framed it. It's like, yeah, that made me a man or whatever. I'm like, I don't know if it did, because he kind of got really fucked up. And, and so then, I'm saying a lot of these guys, they grew up very, very rough upbringings in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But with James, I think it was more emotional, not so much financially. It was more of the religious kind of doctrine.
Being in a religion that's so strict and
very strict,
on things that would fuck you up. Yeah.
I think they were also forced vegetarians too. I don't think they eat meat, so that was another aspect too of having to restrict your diet in a certain way based on your parents' religion or whatever, which you had no choice, you have no decision to make yourself or whatever. And so I only bring that up because like this whole movie is essentially like one group therapy session, but it makes sense because it's like they're middle aged now, and when you get older, I don't know if anyone's younger than us. When you start getting older, I got to choose my words carefully here. It's like Lars said, you start processing things different. You start looking back, and you start realizing like, oh, that was like a really fucked up experience. Oh, wow. Like, that actually wasn't like funny the way I thought it was back then, or like that wasn't like this cutesy little thing like that I was sarcastic about, as like a defense mechanism. I gotta choose my words carefully, which Lars uses at one point, which is hilarious. And so like, you grow up like that, they use music as like their both like their outlet, but also like their cover. Like,
oh yeah, it's
their mask, kind of like I'm not sure how to say it. Like
it's kind of like a mask because everybody does that. Like when it comes to like the arts in general, like a lot of people, like somebody will paint something to kind of hide their feelings and express them in a painting as opposed to just talking about them. Or a lot of people hide things with humor. Like some of the most depressed people on the earth are like stand-up comics.
Right.
So, it's like,
yeah. Keeps them alive, and it keeps them from having to talk about the really big feelings they have. And so like, you got this going on. Dave Mustaine, he's a really interesting scene. I mean, people kind of make fun of him for it because it's like, oh, this big rock stars complain about how terrible his life is or whatever. But it's like, yeah, but he's also human. It's a human feeling, regardless of how much money you got or whatever. Like,
it doesn't matter. He was still rejected from a band, and it's like, and I mean, there's, and from what I've read, there was never really any good full explanation as to why, more than ego. So yeah,
it was. I know the story
and his drug abuse and stuff too. But still, it's like he said in the documentary, he was like, you could have helped me get some help. But then again, they were all just kids at the time. So
it's one of those things where it's like he basically had his drug problem at the wrong time, essentially, for everyone. Whereas James, and then a lot of that kind of not really resentment. He didn't really sound like he was resent. It was more of like explaining of like, James right now is in rehab for the past 9 months. And
the main issue I have with Dave Mustaine is that he used his anger of being rejected from Metallica and kind of took it out in a lot of articles and a lot of other things that I've seen on Kirk.
Yeah, he
replaced him. He had he's trying to say that he stole his job and all this other shit, but it's like, no, dude, you got yourself kicked out of the band. Not that, it was for whether you deserved it or not. You can't blame the guy that replaces you. It's like, if you're working at Walmart and get fired and then somebody else is hired to replace you, you can't really blame that guy for you getting fired.
Right.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where he couldn't get over it even. And I don't even think Kirk even knew that knew much about Metallica. So I don't think he even knew that he was replacing someone that was still technically in a band already. I think he thought that it was already done. Like Dave had left the band already. Like this wasn't like that was just happening right now. Because the full story, at least from Dave's perspective, I don't know how true it is in that, is that they kicked him out on their way to New York or New Jersey to record Kill 'Em All. And then they bought a Greyhound ticket, sent him back, and basically said, oh, by the way, you're not in the band anymore. Like, that's really cool. Like, really. Like, that's something like, that's not, because you got to imagine now, he's like 20 years old, all this like anticipation, like, oh my God, this is actually happening. I mean, like that would really fucking piss me off. Like, I think I would be like never forgiving those guys,
And I mean, the thing is, in a lot of ways too, it's like, I mean, Metallica was kind of known at the time, but they weren't yet the huge band they were. And it's like it's like being Pete Best or something.
A little bit, like,
anyway. Yeah.
I mean, they're a little bit different because he became successful on his own with Megadeth. And by the way, Megadeth was quite literally born out of spite. Like it's like solely revenge was his reason.
And that's the thing. And also, I mean, see, it's two different pathways. Like Pete Best went on with his life and got married and had kids and lived a happy life. He didn't start a competing band to the Beatles,
But the thing is, and I understand from both perspectives. I understand Dave's things, but at the same time, because of that happened, Megadeth was founded, and that was another huge metal band that changed the face of heavy rock.
Yeah.
So if he had stayed in Metallica, it would have just been Metallica. And then you got Megadeth, because Megadeth was always on the heels of Metallica, and he even mentions that kind of like, do I like being number two? No. I mean, it does sound kind of like okay, really, dude. But if you do think about it again, you start this band on spite of your former band. You kind of want to get back at them, and you're always just at the heels. You're never quite like, even his albums would usually come out like a year or two after the most recent Metallica album came out, and so it was like he quite literally was like trying to catch up with them.
I can also kind of see. I'm just reading here how Kirk got into the band,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so they, like you said, they traveled to New York to record Kill 'Em All, and but due to Dave's substance abuse, he was fired shortly after their arrival. But Hammett received a phone call on April 1st and flew out to New York for an audition on April 11th, the same day Mustaine was let go. They were already putting into motion before they got rid of Dave.
But why take it? That's what I don't understand. Why
still don't blame? I don't blame. I don't think blaming Kirk at all is a good thing. But it's just kind of funny how fucked up James and Lars probably were to do this to him.
It's one of those things, like you said too, about like how they're so understanding of James, but again, like they were just kids at the time. It kind of reminds me. I know it's like a really, really weird example. It's not very apt, but it kind of just reminded me of that movie 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah,
where like she's finally ready to be in a relationship, and he feels like, well, kind of cheated. Like, well, wait, why wasn't it with me? And it was just like a timing issue. Like it just happens sometimes. Like, and it's like, it sucks. It feels cruel. In this case, it was kind of cruel though. But like in that movie though, it wasn't.
Whereas, I mean, I love 500 Days of Summer. It's a great movie, but it's so misread, that movie, because it's such a it's got very misogynistic tendencies to it.
Yeah.
Where and I think the right read on the movie is that basically the lead character is the villain.
It's not supposed to be like an incel propaganda film, basically. It's
that's what people took it as meaning that, oh, women are bad. But no, it's actually kind of proving you that, you've got to be with the right person. You can't just force yourself into a relationship.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of it's like, again, like a timing issue too. Where
I mean, and that's the same thing with a band. You can't force yourself into a relationship with your bandmates, or any kind of thing. It's like, it's different. Like they were talking in the movie, they've got the psychotherapist that's helping them out, and it's similar to what they've helped out with like sports teams. There's a difference between a band and a sports team, because the management is hiring the best players, and they can only trade so many people. Like if for a baseball team or something, you need a good pitcher, you need a good catcher, and so on. And if they don't get along, bringing in a therapist makes sense, because you can't really just say, I mean, you can quit baseball, but it's like you can't get traded unless you're a free agent. It's like you can't just leave, if you're playing for the Yankees, you can't just say, hey, I don't want to play for the Yankees anymore, I want to go play for the Cubs or something. You just kind of are stuck where you are until your contract is up. So it's like,
this guy built
but in a band, if things aren't working, you can kick the guy out or you can leave the band. It's kind of
it's just a whole different thing. And that guy, we could talk about him later. That guy is totally fucking weird, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, they still laud him, saying that he saved them. I don't see
I can kind of see that he did good. I mean, the thing is, I don't think he's all bad.
No, just like weird, like
the approach to it all. I think it would have worked better with more of a one-on-one therapy sort of thing, and a group therapy. I don't know. Maybe they were doing one-on-one and they just didn't film it.
Yeah, maybe.
But having this like whole group therapy with the whole band, and if that's all you were having, it's not helping the issues, because in a lot of ways it does help with group therapy, like or couples therapy or something like that. But there's also the idea that you can't get to the key issues of yourself if all you're doing is focusing on what's wrong with the other person.
And also too, being afraid to speak up about what's going on with you, because that person's there with you and they might judge you or make fun of you for it. or whatever. Yeah, so I did get, and plus too, the fact that they're filming the whole thing as well. So that's also an aspect to it.
I was looking up some trivia about this movie, and they said, according to James Hetfield, it was originally supposed to be a 6-part miniseries for VH1, inspired by the success of MTV's The Osbournes.
What?
However, after seeing much of the footage, the band felt that this was not the direction they wanted to take their careers, and bought out VH1's rights to the material and made the film as you see it today.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, they kind of wanted it to be like a reality TV show. I mean, obviously not probably in the exact same. It was inspired by the success of the Osbournes. Obviously, it's not going to be, family comedy like the Osbournes was.
The Osbournes was kind of billed as kind of like a comedy show, sort of. Like, I mean, it had serious moments. Yeah, too. Yeah, it's a totally different field.
I couldn't see this being a reality TV show. I mean, because you did have shows like The Real World and whatnot that had like drama, and you still have shows now that have drama like Love Island and all that shit. But it's different than what this would have been. This is kind of a darker drama. Yeah,
again, it's something I only watch like once every 2 years because of how it is and like very traumatic to hear them, because it's like the way James. I mean, they talk like a married couple who's just lots of resentment buried underneath the jokes and the sniping remarks here and there. And still, like, Lars did have a good point at one point where he said that, like, because I think Lars, he's able to express his emotions better than James because he grew up in Europe. One thing, Europe's not usually this "Hey, America, man," type of mentality that like American men are taught to behave. So already coming from a different culture where men are allowed to not just like anger is the only emotion that they're allowed to have or express or whatever. So already there's that. But he said that like when it was just the two of them, maybe listening to records in his room, he would act normal. But then, like, for example, when Dave Mustaine would get in the picture, suddenly he'd turn on this macho kind of like, persona, type of thing. And so, and like, I can understand that too, because even at one point when Lars mentioned, when they first started recording, he kind of mentioned this point of like, like, I'm not sure how we're going to act knowing that there's a camera around us, if we're going to start acting differently just because we know that we're being filmed. And he's like, there's a certain like intimacy, when you're just like, talking together. And James like, intimacy? What the hell are you talking about? Like basically saying gay because he said intimacy, so it's like, yeah, come on. Like, I would be pissed off if I thought I had a best friend and then they said something like that in return. Like, really? We're going to like gay shit here because I used the word intimacy? Like, really? And so like, so again, like even then he was doing that because he was around everyone else and then being recorded. So it's like he had to deflect that a little bit by making some little remark like, intimacy, what the fuck are you talking about? Type of thing. And so like, I can see the resentment of Lars having that kind of like feeling of like, when it was just us, the two of us, because like they were basically like the founders of the band essentially. And so it was just them, getting together, listening to these new wave of British heavy metal bands, basically metal bands that no one really heard of except for like really, really obscure people who are like really, really into metal would not know who these bands are, which is again why Metallica became the way they were, because they had a leg up on the competition because they were listening to bands that nobody else really ever heard of, and they were taking inspiration, sometimes stealing riffs, like Seek and Destroy. Pretty much the entire song of Seek and Destroy is stolen from various different songs, riffs of different songs. There's a whole thing I could get into. Wow. So they kind of had a leg up on the competition, and then all of a sudden, you introduce Dave Mustaine, and then they start butting heads, with this whole macho, kind of masculine, like I'm the top dog, type, thing or whatever. And then you got Lars, who now is kind of would see himself almost like the third wheel all of a sudden, like this is my best friend, and now suddenly, he's putting all of his attention on trying to be more macho than this other guy who just came in who doesn't even really know us. You know what I mean? So I could totally see that kind of resentment building up over like a 20-year time period of like, I know this guy in a completely different context than what he's putting out into the public. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and actually, I've actually had friends like that, to be honest. And so, I don't remember them that much, but like growing up, and so like that's kind of like striking the chord with me actually a little bit, like, where it's like when we're alone, we're talking, we're doing these other things, and suddenly, when we're out like at a playground or whatever, you're out here making fun of me, about shit that you yourself were already talking about just between the two of us, And so like, no, like I could totally see that kind of like resentment. Because he mentions it a couple of times actually in the documentary. At one point, he's just slamming on the drums. He's just trying to get out that aggression, of like just kind of going through that all over again. He mentions at one point when they were on Ride the Lightning tour that they went to a bar and they drank 42 beers. I don't know if that means collectively or I don't believe that's I don't think any person can drink 42 beers and still be awake.
Andre the Giant, maybe.
Well, yeah, but they were like, he was huge, and guys were like pint sized, skinny at that time. I don't know if it's true or not, but then basically saying, that like, it would have to get to that point for James to basically just talk like a normal person, essentially, like, and so like, I think the movie I think though, like through the therapy and stuff and going to rehab, I do think that like James now is finally starting to communicate on that level, but then that still kind of pissed off Lars in a way too, which is weird because it's like, well, wait, isn't this the James you always wanted? And now he's here, but it's like, but like, I guess not the version that you wanted of him doing that. Basically, you just want him. He built up, I guess, this version of James that would be the kind of version that he wanted him to be, but then he becomes his own version of that because he's his own person. He's not.
Yeah, and I mean,
not Lars' clone. He's just,
Yes, especially then later in the documentary, like when he gets sober and stuff, it's like you can't be, you got to be caring about yourself more, or you're gonna fall off the wagon. I mean, he did eventually, and then like 2019, but
he got clean pretty soon after that too. I mean, so like because he knew he already been through all this, I think he was there for like 9 months. It was a really long time. It wasn't like normal 30-day stint kind of thing. And so he was like secluded, the whole time. He wasn't really talking to anyone in the band at all. He didn't want to have any influence coming in from that, trying to rush the process basically to force him back in recording or whatever. And so he took his time with that. But like, yeah, there was like scenes in there. It's really hard to watch. Like some of these scenes where, he's basically saying like I can only work 4 hours a day. Like I can't do this like 10-hour a day shit anymore. Like, like I did in the past, because back in the past he was on substances, which helped him be able to overextend, his normal ability to be sore,
when you don't give a shit. And then, I mean, now he has a family and he cares about them, and doesn't want to be an asshole to them.
And so, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I've been talking this whole time. Sorry.
So really quick, back to the political things with James.
Oh, sure. Don't. I don't want to. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. We got.
So
go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
In 2008, responding to the use of Metallica's music to torture Iraqi prisoners, Hetfield was unoffended and replied, "If the Iraqis aren't used to freedom, then I'm glad to be part of their exposure."
Oh boy. Yeah.
And then this is what I found funny here. In response, the British band Chumbawamba, which people always, there's like, oh, that one song, but they, if you know the history of Chumbawamba, that's a great deep dive, because they were anarchists. Anyways, they subsequently released a song called "Torturing James Hetfield."
Oh my God. That's hilarious. Which is weird though, because Metallica later actually started performing in the Middle East later. Because they have bands in the Middle East. So maybe that was like, fuck. So like, I think they played in unfortunately, I think they play in Saudi Arabia. It's not a great country, you know. I mean, like, you know, the whole thing with Aziz Ansari and all these other comedians going, you know, yeah, there it is. Metallica made history by performing their first ever concert in Saudi Arabia on December 14th, 2023. So this is before the whole comedy thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different because they were like performing specifically for like the monarchy, right? Or something like that. Like,
yeah, a lot of the stuff with Western bands and artists and stuff performing there and businesses going there, it was all, you know, kind of started by the Crown Prince and basically as a way to way to try to make the government seem more cool by allowing this stuff.
But they don't let the people listen to the music who live there. You know, you know, maybe they do. I don't know. I don't think they do. Or let them go to the Metallica concert. I doubt that they let the regular people, you know, go to the. It's just the monarchy. It's always fucking like that. Every fucking society, no matter what religion or political party is, they get to abide by rules that everyone else doesn't get to have. Like, you want to talk about Saudi, for example? I'm really going on a tangent. You know, alcohol is not allowed in Islam, right? You want to get super technical. Specific type of alcohol that came from like dates was forbidden. Not any other kind, but I don't want to get into that after. Yeah. So because the people are like, well, you know, like, we extrapolate from that. Like, we don't want to get super literal about this, even though we will be literal about everything else. But somehow now we're not going to be literal, and no matter. And so, like, you know, so alcohol was not allowed in religion. And so there came a time, I think it was in Iraq or Iran, I don't remember, where hashish became very popular among the working class. The Quran says nothing about hashish, smoking, any kind of plant, tobacco, nothing. Completely moot on the entire thing. Even in the Hadith, there's no mention of that. So boom. So they're like, okay, well, obviously it's okay because it's not mentioned at all. And then they're like, no, you can't do it because it's still intoxicating. And anything that's intoxicating by extrapolation from what the Quran says is forbidden, even if the Quran doesn't mention it specifically. So, okay, so you're just making shit up. Fine, no matter, whatever, everyone does that. But then in the royal court, they're drinking wine in the royal court. So wait a minute. So the royal people are doing something that's explicitly forbidden for them.
Oh yeah.
But other people are doing stuff by inference. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like it's just one of those things like where I doubt they were letting the people go to this Metallica concert. I don't think. I mean, I could look into it, but I really don't think they were allowed to go.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It's kind of. I mean, that's another rabbit hole to jump down. So
anyway, I didn't mean to get too much on that.
Yeah.
But like, so I'm just making like this point of like how deep this movie is. A lot of it is very hard to watch because you're listening to people actually talk to each other, like, and get really super vulnerable with each other. You're not just doing macho shit or making like, you know, snide remarks, you know, or whatever. I mean, that does happen frequently in a movie. A lot of it is instigated by Lars, you know, and because, you know, he's pretentious and
he's stubborn. He's stubborn and narcissistic too. I mean, it's just very
James, which James pointed out.
But then again, I'm not diagnosing anybody. And
no.
I'm not trying to say that somebody is something. I got accused of that earlier online today.
Oh, so. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. that guy is.
Just because somebody said that that there's no such. He said because he was like a psychology student or something that he knows of no medical condition that causes someone to not have empathy.
Okay.
And I named two different ones, and then he accused me of calling them both those things, and I'm like,
what? Okay.
No, I'm just telling you two of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy was weird, man.
Yeah.
I didn't read all those things because there was so many, but man, this guy will not shut up like at all.
I know.
Will not like give up on his. He's dying on the hill apparently, but dying on the hill of the. Nah, I'm not getting into it. But like it's
Metallica. So narcissistic tendencies of Lars Ulrich.
There's one point in the film. This is actually right before James goes into rehab. At least they make it seem like that in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know was true or not in the actual real chronology of what was going on. But so there's this part where James specifically says he's in a really bad mood today. He can't really come up with any ideas. He's just not feeling it. And so Lars is playing this horrible drum beat. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not even like I'm playing some weird clever beat that like it's like not even that. It just sounds like actual shit. Like there's no way you can salvage it by saying like, oh, I was playing this really weird obscure. No, it was just a terrible drum
it wasn't
beat.
even for humor, really. It was more for like him being just an asshole.
It was. He was just being an asshole because he didn't want, I don't know, whatever. And so, and like Kirk was saying, he's like, this is really confusing for me. Like this sounds really weird to me. And so it wasn't just James like trying to pick a fight. Kirk was also, I think even Bob Rock was kind of like, I don't know, like it just seems off or whatever. And so to get into this huge fight, Lars is the one that's picking at him. Like James is just saying like, it's like I don't know, like can I just get like a more solid beat, like something that's more like something that I can actually play guitar to, because this drum beat was literally impossible to play anything to. Like I don't think you'd be able to come up with a riff where this would actually make any sense to fit into. And so and again, it's like you're a metal band. Yeah, they're really good at what they do, but like they're not jazz. They're not doing all kinds of like weird you know what I mean? Like that's not something probably are able to even do, you know, because it's just not their style of music. And then Lars is just like, he's like, well, that's your opinion. Like, I'm just trying to do something different or whatever. It's like, yeah, but what you're doing sounds like shit. Like, it's horrible. Like, you know, and then James is just like, he's like, I don't know, it's clever and everything, but it just doesn't really like mix well. It doesn't really fit with what we're doing here. And then Lars, this is where it's famous, where it's like, oh, I'm trying to use my words carefully here. What I'm hearing is like, it's a bit stock. You know, he's chewing gum, I think, this time too as well. You know, it's a little bit straightforward, you know, so I was just trying to, you know, add some edge to it with the drums or whatever. And then James calls him out. He's like, these terms we throw at each other are like a complete bullshit. It sounds like stock, it's straightforward. Like you're only saying this to like make a point about a drum beat. You know what I mean? Like seriously, that's the only reason why he would even say that. Because there's lots of Metallica riffs that are very similar to each other. That's not, if that was your argument, you wouldn't allow all these other similar riffs that go on in like Metallica. Because again, there's only so much you can do with any style of music. You hit a peak at some point where there's not much.
If you venture too far away from what you're known for, people are going to complain, and if you venture too close to what you're known for, people are going to complain. So you're kind of damned if you do or damned if you don't sort of way.
Yeah, so they were trying
to. You know, like the main issue with Saint Anger is a lot of people complained that there weren't any solos.
Well, that's an interesting thing too about that, because there's that scene where they basically tell Kirk he's not allowed to record guitar solos, because it's outdated or whatever. And then like Kirk actually made a good point. Kirk has always been the only, besides Jason Newsted, who they basically forced out of the band, always the one that had the most level head out of like the most egoless out of all of them. Like almost to the point sometimes where I think he almost like doesn't stand up for himself enough. I think at times where he should be able to like say like, hey, you know, I'm in the band too. Like, you know, I got ideas, you know, as well, type of thing. And then he kind of flew off the handle a little bit about this, where he's like, you know, I think this whole thing is bullshit. He's like, I'm not interested in like doing a guitar solo for the sake of doing a guitar solo. Like, it's not like because of me that I have to do this because I'm the lead guitarist and therefore I have to do a guitar solo. His argument was, you know, if we don't put a guitar solo on one of these songs, that's going to cement it in this current era of rock music. That's the current trend. So by you saying we're not going to do something outdated, by doing that, your record then is going to be, oh, that was during the new metal phase or whatever, where they didn't do guitar solos, you know. And so, and then Bob, Bob, this is how easy it is to talk to Kirk. Basically, Bob, and again, like Lars and James will argue for hours over this. Bob simply gently makes one point in like a span of 30 seconds to Kirk of like, I don't want to get into this thing where, it's a rule where like, let's not have a rule where it says no guitar solo, but must not also have a rule for guitar solo. And Kirk's like, oh yeah, I agree with that. So wait, so apparently you could be a normal adult and solve a conflict in 30 seconds versus like months of arguing with each other, you know. And I've always liked Kirk. He's always been my favorite. Besides Jason, him and Jason Newsted have always been my favorite members of the band, simply because of how emotionally mature they are about this stuff. They, you know, like,
I don't know why, but the whole thing just reminded me of A Mighty Wind when Harry Shearer's character said to do then, now, retro, to do then was very nowtro, if you will.
I love that line. That's my favorite line. It's like,
Yeah.
I
don't know why, but when I watched that scene with Kirk, I was just like, yeah, that's how I feel. I think it's just like
it's very interesting. I mean, like he was kind of, you know, he was pissed for a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And he got out his anger, you know, for a little bit, and then the conflict was solved in a matter of like 30 seconds. And you know, so it's possible to act that way and to not take every little thing personally, as though it's like, you know, it's going to affect your entire being, your way of life or whatever, over not getting your point in the right drum beat or whatever, you know, the case may be. You know, and plus again, Kirk, again, growing up extremely poor, he's like, you know, I'm not going to fuck up my career here by, you know, like I don't want to go back to that, you know, like, you know, same thing with Jason Newsted, exact same thing. If you watch Year and a Half, he's sitting there, he's eating the fucking food that they give you like in the break room or whatever before you play.
Mm-hmm.
They're making fun of him because at this point they're making lots of money. They're like, why don't you just order out whoever? He's like, dude, like I'm saving my money because eventually I'm gonna like want to buy like a house or a ranch.
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna just blow all my money right now because we don't know how long this is gonna last. Like, you know, like,
yeah, you never know. I mean, music is the most fickle business in the world. I think it's funny too. As far as I just read something about Lars that made me dislike him even more.
Okay.
You know where the band name came from?
I've heard different theories. What does it say? What do you mean? What is it?
The band name came from Ehrlich's friend Ron Quintana, who was thinking of names for a fanzine he was creating. He was considering the names Metal Mania or Metallica.
Okay.
After hearing the two names, Ehrlich wanted the latter for his band, so he suggested to Quintana to use the name Metal Mania instead.
So that's why that magazine has its name. Gotcha.
Yeah, so basically he stole the name.
I mean, to be fair, Metallica is a much better band name than Metal Mania.
Yeah, it is. It's better than a magazine name, but what I'm saying is that he just basically kind of like, hey, dude, you should use this other one.
Right, he did the trick.
I'm going to steal this one, you know, that sort of.
He did the trick of like, oh, I this is better for you, actually. Like, you know, I'm actually doing this for you, you know, type of thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. But yeah, Metal Mania, speaking, that was a very important early fanzine for metal, especially in the Western Coast Bay Area, California, etc. Very, very, very important magazine. Metallica would not have, so many other bands like Armored Saints, even like Diamond had some of these other British bands that were only popular in Britain and other very obscure metal communities in Europe. They got a little bit of following here in America, like Merciful Fate, another great band. I'm just dropping names here, like I'm so cool. Diamond Head and Merciful Fate, you know, and Saxon. I'm so cool. I know this music stuff, you know, whatever. You know, ours. I'm so cool, man. By the way, they Seek and Destroy. They stole a riff from a song called "Princess of the Night" by Saxon. Yeah. There's no question. There's no. There's you. I'll play you later on the two.
Yeah.
Not even because not only the riff, the drum beat is also part of the. Like, there's no question that they took this from this band. Like, it's not even. I'll play. I can't do it here. I don't want to get like copyright shit. But like.
So what else do you want to talk about from the documentary?
I'm the one.
Before the episode gets to be like 2 hours long.
I'm the one that's doing all the talking here. Not really much. Just I mean, we pretty much covered everything. I mean, like just like the whole. Well, I guess there is the whole thing with Phil Toll, where he starts like acting like he's part of the band at one point. Like he's going against like his own therapy like boundaries, like where he's not supposed to be like enmeshed with his clients. Like there's this one scene where he's like wearing like sunglasses and he's like trying to act like all cool and shit as he's sitting down on the couch next to Kirk, and he scribbles something down. So the whole thing with Saint Anger, which kind of sucks, this is the first album where everybody was allowed to write the album, and it's the worst album they've ever done. So it's like maybe having the fascist version of Metallica was better when it was just Lars and James, because those albums sound good. This is the one where everyone gets involved and it just sounds like it's a little dog shit. So I don't know. But anyway, so like they were all allowed to like write lyric, because Lars usually mainly wrote the lyrics to a lot of these songs, and James kind of pitch in a little bit as well. And so like Kirk was writing down lyric ideas, etc. And then Phil Toll, he scribbles something down and he hands it over to James. I'm like, you're not part of the band, dude. Like that's a really weird thing to do.
I mean, that's the thing. They have two people in this movie that are basically trying to feel like they're two members of the band that aren't. Him and Bob. With
Bob, it makes a little bit more sense because
he's playing on the album, right? But
and he's a producer too. So
I understand, being a producer, but you're not part of the band. There's a difference, and the fact that they let him, I think that might have affected things a lot by letting him play bass as opposed to taking some time off to find a new bass player.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit weird because I think he's actually on the record too. I don't think Rob Trujillo is actually on the record.
No, he's not. He's not. Yeah, it's Bob Rock does all the bass, plays all of the bass on the album. So yeah,
weird. But like, he's a producer, so he's good at like.
Yeah,
producers are really useful.
And I mean, the thing is he's a good musician too. But the thing is, it's like he's not part of the band. A producer is different than a member of the band. And the thing is like even if he wants to be a musician, go off and be a musician. Yeah. Don't insert yourself into this band. And I'm saying this based on I can't tell you the difference if it's good or not because I don't know bass playing. Period. So you know what I mean? It's just Right.
It's just I don't know. It's just very interesting. Yeah, because like as a producer, they're very useful because a lot of bands, have the ego thing where they want to write everything themselves. They don't want any outside output because they don't want to feel like they didn't control every aspect of the music.
Well, I mean, there's
like times it works better that way when you're.
And there's a major difference between a producer like a Phil Spector from back in the day who would like write and almost compose all the music and and do everything and just like bring in a girl to sing it or something, like the Ronettes and whatnot. This is all before he became a murderer, but But you know what I mean is like his wall of sound, and he was great with producing. And there's like people like that today who are great at producing things and doing that. And it works better for like a pop music sort of thing, but not for a rock band.
Yeah,
that's my main thing. And I mean, you do have great producers for these rock bands, but they're usually the ones that know like how to encourage. And I'm not saying that he didn't do this, but encourage the strengths of each member of the band, as opposed to like becoming controlling.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because if you go back into like the Black Album when they're filming when they're doing that, he's very much more hands off. He takes out ideas that he's like, what if you just played the riff this way, or what if you only played the first half of that riff and you just repeated it? That's what a producer does. That's okay. That's what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's their thing. But like when you're like, no, I don't like that. I think you should do this. I'm like, well, now you're inserting yourself. Like, I know producers will play on other people's, and then there's a lot of times when, like for example, the best Beach Boys album ever was basically made by Brian Wilson and just by himself,
and the Wrecking Crew. And then he brought in his brothers and cousin and whatnot later to sing on it. But it's different.
It is
inserting yourself into the band.
Yeah, I think that was also. Yeah, I agree with you about that because again, like I think he was the reason why they recorded Load and Reload, completely changing their style of music. Yeah. Just fine if you want to try something different, that's okay. But like it felt like because you think about their style drastically changed with him at the helm, not the helm, but like the Black Album. The Black Album is very heavy. It's very got lots of. It's very slower than all their other albums.
You would know better than I. Like, I don't know what they sound like now because I haven't listened to Metallica in literally 20 years.
They've gone back to their thrash metal ways, but I feel like they're just kind of circling the wagons personally.
Yeah.
I think they're not really doing anything unique anymore, which is fine. They've been together for 40 years. I mean,
yeah.
At a certain point, but it's like I would rather. I'm afraid if I ever do see them in concert, they're gonna want to play shit from the new stuff. Which I get bands, they want to play the new stuff, but it's like the new stuff is not as good as the stuff, it's just like objectively not as good. Like it's just not because
of the band, and this is going to sound weird because I've said a lot of bad shit about him. I really worry about Lars.
Why? What do you mean?
I worry about his health.
Why? What's going on?
No, nothing. I'm just saying, being a drummer in a rock band for that long.
Oh, right. Okay.
Horrible on your body.
Yeah.
Because like for example, what's his face who died from Foo Fighters? I just blanked on his name.
Yeah.
Like he had so many health problems going on because of his drumming. The thing is with you drumming like that, it can actually mess up your heart.
Right. Taylor Hawkins. There you go.
Taylor Hawkins. There we go. Yeah. I had a T in my head and an H, but I couldn't put them together. But yeah, anyways,
didn't he?
He did, but the thing is he was taking medicine to compensate for the fact that he was having health problems. And actually his cause of death has never they've never ruled what it was.
Okay.
So yeah, because it was in a different country and they have different laws.
It's almost bad for your back as well as Phil Collins.
And like the longtime drummer, I can't remember his name either because I'm horrible with names of Pearl Jam quit because he was basically, he just said, I can't do this anymore. He's like, it's hurting my body. It hurts, my health. And he's like, if I want to live, I can either stay in the band and die in the band, or I can live my life, sort of thing. It's just, that's why watching Lars like on stage and how hard he hits those things. And this was like 22 years ago.
Yeah.
I need to watch some current footage, but I mean, I don't know how he can keep up with that sort of.
I think
and to a lesser extent, the other guys too, because they're getting old. And I mean, it's like, there's a difference between the type of music that these people play and even Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters to like the music that the Beatles or the Rolling Stones played. It's more mellow and, like you can be a drummer, but even like Charlie Watts and the Stones, he died, earlier than he probably should have, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, metal is definitely a genre that you age out at some point. It's just the way it's not fair, but it's just how it is.
I mean, like Megadeth, there's only one original member.
Yeah, well, a lot of that too is he would kick a lot of people out for stupid.
I know, but I'm saying that I'm sure that some of it is the health issues that are contributing to that, and there's other bands like that too. I know that people always complain, well, I'm just going to see this band and they're basically a cover band, but it's like, yeah, but these people, are in their 60s or 70s and they're not going to be able to play anymore.
I mean, James, I think, is like the thing too with James as well. I'm worried about is arthritis because James does something called down picking, where you sometimes that kind of like that kind of thing when you hear a guitar do that's called a fret pick where you're muting the fret slightly, so it's got that weird staccato thing. And then what he does is called down picking, where he only does it doing down. Like, because a lot of people, they'll do it down and up because it's easier and you can do it faster. Yeah. So he's playing these, say, like, imagine, and you're only doing down. Like, I mean, like, when you're young and stuff like that, sure. But even then, it still takes a lot of speed and endurance to do that. But if you're 60 and you're going like all down, like, at a certain point, I think he's not going to be able to do that, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like, again, they've been together since 1981.
I'm like, I'm looking at a picture of the band from 2 years ago, and man, they look old. I mean, but you expect it too, but it's like, and I just, there's only so much you can do with this. I mean, it's like I said, there's difference between that, but then but then it's even when you these like older artists like of Frankie Valli from the Four Seasons is on, tour still, and he's like 90 something, and they basically are just, pushing him out on stage, and he's kind of just barely singing.
Yeah,
like
at a certain point, it's like
at a certain point, just enjoy your life. And I know you love the music and stuff, but it's like sometimes it's going to get to that point. It's like that's why like in a lot of ways it's very similar to like sports athletes. Like that's why like the average baseball player retires like in his 30s or something. It's like
especially in football player too, like maybe 40s at the late. But like you can still play music and stuff, but like maybe don't tour, maybe just do smaller shows here and there. Like nothing that like pins you down, like I gotta do these 3 dates or whatever. Like just like a one-off concert, like I'm gonna do this next month, at this club or whatever. Like you can do that. Like there's no. But okay, so he's 62 years old, James Hetfield. Let's see, Lars Ulrich age is 62, so the same age. So there was one little thing I want to talk about else, just really quick about the Jason Newsted of it all. So this whole documentary came about because Jason Newsted quit the band. That was the impetus or whatever that started the whole thing. And he quit the band because James wouldn't allow him to have a side project of like this funk kind of like ska type of band that was like called Echo Brain. And like this is like a band that like at most would sell out like a small club, and a lot of it would be because Jason Newsted's in the band. Yeah, like there's no offense to them that you're saying they're a bad band or anything like that. It's just like that. And so he's kind of like, do you really think like this band would compete with Metallica? Like, are you that delusional where like you think like, side project, like
to a point, he might have been thinking that more of as opposed to the competition of the band versus band, it might have been more competition for time.
Well, even then though, he was saying that wasn't really an issue because they all have kids and stuff, and they're married, and so they spend a lot of their downtime doing that stuff anyway. So his downtime wasn't eating away at the band time anyway. It wasn't like he was like, oh, I would practice with you guys, but now I gotta go here. That wasn't even the issue. Like it was just because he was in another band. Like James was
playing with other people too at the same time. So.
For him to do that, and he even admits to it later on that it was basically his fault, that like he's the reason why Jason quit the band. And then you also go in again, it's like we talked about with Dave Mustaine earlier about sometimes the timing's just wrong, and it's just like it's unfair. Life is unfair. It just happened that way. So with Dave Mustaine, it was a similar issue with Jason. I'm calling him Jason because I know him, right? I'm like, it's Jason, not Jason. And so Cliff Burton died, a tragic a bus accident in Sweden. Yeah. They were touring for the Master of Puppets album, and the bus literally fell on top of him, just killed him instantly, probably. Which it's good that feel any pain from it to happen so suddenly. And so they started auditioning for a new bass player the day after his funeral. Yeah, they gave no time for grief whatsoever, and they were still doing drugs and drinking at that time as well. And so they finally, and they auditioned like Les Claypool, that would be a terrible fit. They literally told them that he's too good for the band. Like if they hired him, they would be like holding him back essentially. Oh yeah, that's the reason why they didn't hire him, is because he was too good. And then he's like, yeah, it's not going to work out. And so they finally, Jason was the one that was the best fit for them. They liked them. And so they treated him so horribly because they took it out, Cliff's death, on him. Like at first it was like hazing, like a normal kind of hazing thing, but like it never stopped. It was like, you know what I mean? Like, and so that's different than like, oh, he's a new guy, we're going to haze him. You don't keep hazing people 10 years later. Like, that's not, at that point, you're just bullying someone. That's not hazing.
Especially, which is really kind of funny too, that Jason's older than them.
Yeah, is he? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
He's 63.
Okay, so he's like a year older.
Like a year older, so it's like kind of weird. Like I just looked it up because I was like, maybe it was because he was younger, because he looks younger. But then I was like looking at it and I'm like, he's older.
He probably, because he quit the band and he knew that was it was the right thing for him to do, even though it's sad because again, he was like one of my favorite members of the band just because of how down to earth he always was. He was never very arrogant about being in this band because he always felt, this could end. This not guaranteed it's going to last forever type thing. And he had already established himself in the band before that called Flotsam and Jetsam, which was also a thrash metal band. And they were kind of pissed at him because he quit their band so like they kind of had like their own Dave Mustaine moment where they put out a record almost like vengeance against him, like a very heavy.
Speaking of his replacement, it's kind of funny that Robert Trujillo's son is now the bass player in Suicidal Tendencies, which he used to be.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, he played for Ozzy as well.
Mm-hmm. Ozzy switched bass players. He switched from Robert to Jason.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
When Robert left him, he replaced him with Jason.
That's hilarious. And so I wanted to mention that because of like how I was very angry when I was a kid, I was like band or whatever. Really, technically, my disillusion with Metallica was actually going on for a number of years before I saw the documentary when it came out because of that aspect of like, you push this guy out of the band because, you wouldn't let him have a side project. And again, the side project wasn't even eating in to Metallica time. It was just fine. It wasn't like he was like, oh, I would go to practice. Oh, I would go to a recording session, but I'm doing this thing. That wasn't even the problem. Was because he had free time and he wasn't just going to sit around doing nothing with his free time. And so that's what he did. And like, I just feel it's one of those things though too, where it's like, they now know, it's like the Dave Mustaine effect. They now know that there was the wrong thing to do, but they can't really go back now because of it. And so it just, that has to stick. That moment of your life has to.
And this is nothing. I mean, and it, I guess it worked out for the best. I mean, Robert seems like a good replacement, and he's his own thing, and he's been with the band longer than any other bass player now.
He has been, but again, like they've only released 4 albums in the past 23 years. Whereas when Jason was a band, they released 4 albums in a matter of 10 years. So, and again, those albums were the ones that they're known for. Like, I'm sorry, but people are going to go to Metallica concerts to hear the old stuff in the Black Album, not the new shit.
Oh, I know. And they're and plus but I'm just saying even with the fact that he's been consistent, at least it's kind of
they didn't kick him out that they've known that they can keep him on. But yeah, like it's just like how Jason was kind of like the Dave Mustaine, but a little bit different, actually worse, because Dave Mustaine kind of did some shit that really pissed him off. Whereas Jason Newsted, his thing was existing that pissed him off, basically because he was the replacement for Cliff, and Cliff was like their guy. Like he was like a the original Thor. Like he wasn't a hired hand, basically. He was like the original founding member of the band. Well, not really founding, but like and so that just kind of made me sad a little bit about like how they treated him. Like you can even see remnants of this a little bit in the old documentary, the year and a half of life of Metallica, where they're constantly hazing him. They kind of make it jokey, but they're still being kind of mean and stuff like that to him. But then they're nice to him as well, so it's kind of like the abusive relationship where it's like, oh well, it's nice dudes one time, kind of thing.
Well,
and,
it's like interesting that for like about 10 years that Scott Schreiner was in Weezer, he wasn't a member of the band.
Oh, interesting.
Because they basically brought him in as a trial period, and they never made him an official member of the band for like 10 years.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
He was technically just a touring and session musician for them for like 10 years.
That's crazy, man. I had no idea that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was quite 10 years. Maybe it was only a few years, but I just remember reading that one time. This is all off the top of my head, so I could be completely wrong. But yeah, he was a provisional basis following the departure of their second bassist. Okay, it was only for like a year, but that's still,
but still,
but still, it's funny.
Yeah. But anyways, that's pretty much all I want to say about the Jason of it all, because that was very important for this whole documentary in the first place. Wouldn't have even existed had he not quit and they hired that Phil dude to do their group therapy or whatever. It still just makes me angry though too. It's like you're blaming someone. It's like it's not just it's like a human thing, like not just a Metallica thing, where it's like you're blaming someone for existing, and you're taking out your pain on this person who had nothing to do with what it is you're grieving over. You know,
it's the stepfather situation. Like you blame the stepfather because your parents got divorced, sort of thing.
Or your stepmother, you know, whether it be or
whatever it is. I'm just giving that as an example. But yeah, it's like, you know, new person moves in and you're blaming them because the old person isn't there, or like if your mom dies and your dad remarries, or
exactly.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But anyways, anything else you want to say about this documentary?
No, I'm good. I mean, they're probably. I guarantee you, the second you hit stop recording or we leave, I'm gonna start thinking of shit like, oh well, I can't do it now because I already.
Yeah, well, there's only so much we can say. Maybe we'll revisit Metallica in general in the future. Something else.
Future, I'm probably gonna ask you to review the year and a half of life. I just think it's better to see the shitty documentary first and then go to the one where they're on top of the world, just to see like how like.
The thing is, this isn't a shitty documentary. It's a good documentary.
No.
It's a good documentary about a shitty time.
Yeah, in the band's life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the documentary. It kept me entertained. I had to watch it in 2 sittings though because I was getting tired. But yeah,
dude,
that's just because I'm, you know, I start watching things at like 1 a.m. and I shouldn't. But
yeah.
So, anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you give us a comment below. Let us know what your favorite Metallica song is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just tell us who your favorite Metallica bassist is. Yeah. Something about Metallica or Megadeth or something, or Weezer for that matter, whatever. Just tell us, just comment below. And
my favorite Disposable Hero. I think that's a great song.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound lame. Mine's Enter Sandman, but that's just because I'm lame.
No, actually, Kirk wrote the riff for Enter Sandman. I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
It's one of those things with Bob Rock where he's like, maybe just play the intro part, like, you know, so like Bob helped to make you refine it to be a little bit better, but like he wrote the riff, so he never got credit for that, of course. But you know, of course, you know.
But anyways, folks,
I know so much about him. Sorry, I know it's kind of like almost like pathetic, but like
it's okay. I mean, if we were doing a review of some other things, I would be just as geeky.
Yeah.
So, folks, just do us a favor, go to all2reeltoo.com and check out our social media links there. Our TeePublic is there. You can get some merchandise, some cool T-shirts, and, you know, cup koozies or something. I don't know what they have on there.
Koozies?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. You can, do that. Do it up. Go check out our Patreon on there. That's a good way to help the show. Become a member there. You can become a member for as little as $1, I think. Don't quote me because I haven't looked at the site in a little bit. I could probably have it pulled up when I'm talking about it, but I don't. And because I'm unprofessional, folks. And I just should be kicked out of the band. And
No.
Just remember, folks, that trans lives are human lives. No human is illegal. Free Palestine. Fuck ICE. Be different. Be yourself. Just remember that I love you, and I would allow you to, do side projects.
Yeah.
And Sesame loves you.
Too.
And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All2ReelToo podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.